What makes for a good settlement value in a knee case in Connecticut workers' compensation? Hey folks, my name is Jim Aspel. I'm a board-certified workers' compensation attorney in Farmington, Connecticut, and I wanted to talk to you for a second about knee injuries. Knee injuries are probably the third most common body part that we see injured in our workers' compensation practice. Number three, only after backs and necks. And a knee case can have a pretty good value for settlement purposes in the Connecticut workers' compensation case. Now, as a caveat, the settlement value of any claim is driven to a large extent by your compensation rate. So in other words, how much you were earning at the time that you got hurt. So if you were a high wage earner and you sustained a knee injury, then your settlement is going to have a higher value than somebody that would sustain that identical knee injury, although they were only doing a $10 or $15 an hour job. So first and foremost, like any other thing in workers' compensation, your comp rate is going to play a key role in what the case is worth. So some of the common knee injuries we see and how I would look at them for settlement purposes would be this. Probably most common would be a knee contusion. So in other words, you sustain a bump to your knee, you fall down, you land on your patella, something like that. Typically, that's going to be a temporary and self-limiting thing. And so you would think that that's not going to have a tremendous settlement value. And that may or may not be the case. Generally, the way I look at it is anytime you have any kind of knee contusion, there is some evidence out there in the medical literature that that contusion is going to set up the start of an arthritic process that, if left unattended long enough, is ultimately going to end up for osteoarthritis in the knee, resulting in the need for a total knee replacement. Now, that may sound like a stretch, but if you're trying to value the settlement of a knee case, that's something that I want to take a look at. And it's a question that I'm probably going to pose to your orthopedic surgeon. And we're going to find out what his or her thoughts are on whether or not the contusion was significant enough that it's going to lead to an arthritic process and you may end up needing a knee replacement down the road. Because obviously those cases have quite extensive settlement value, and we want to make sure that that's something that we look at before we close out your case on a full and final basis. So contusions are common. Sometimes they're worth a lot of money. Sometimes they're not. It just depends. But it requires some diligence on our part to work it up. Second most common scenario we see is a knee sprain. And a knee sprain, typically they're going to have a low to medium settlement value. Generally, knee sprains do tend to resolve themselves. Your typical permanencies that we see on a knee sprain are somewhere in the 5 to 7% range. So depending on what your compensation rate is, the value of the case is going to be on the lower to medium value end, I would estimate. Generally, knee sprains, they don't require a lot of ongoing treatment once the sprain itself heals, and assuming you don't have some sort of altered gait scenario where you start having problems in the opposite knee or you start having problems in the hip, knee sprains are typically straightforward low to medium value claims. The third type of knee injury that are quite common are torn meniscuses. And there's menisci in your knee can get torn in a number of various ways. Generally, there's a twisting force involved, and that meniscus, which is a little jelly substance in your knee, gets ripped. It's going to be quite painful, and generally, depending on where the tear in the meniscus happens to be, it's going to require arthroscopic surgical repair. Sometimes they do heal on themselves, and obviously you're going to take the advice of your doctor as to what the best form of treatment is. But meniscus tears are fairly common, and they tend to have pretty good settlement results, primarily because, number one, they have to be repaired surgically with an arthroscope, and that's going to lead to a higher permanent partial disability rating, somewhere in the 10% range. But the other reason that meniscus injuries tend to have a better settlement value is because down the road, like a contusion, except more likely, arthroscopic surgery is going to increase the likelihood of osteoarthritis setting up in the knee compartment at some point down the road as you age. And in that case, again, that torn meniscus that you have in 2023 may end up being the cause of a knee replacement that you need in 2033. So again, that's another item that we really want to talk to your doctor about and make sure everybody's on the same page as to what the future is going to hold with regard to that torn meniscus. Number 4 would be an actual knee replacement claim itself. For whatever reason, when you come to us, your injury has caused such damage to your knee that you're going to need a knee replacement. Those cases obviously have very high settlement value. The knee replacement surgery itself, a knee arthroplasty, is quite an expensive procedure. Typically, they're going to run about $100,000 between medical and surgical care, convalescence, physical therapy, and that sort of thing. And the other thing is that they generally result in a very high permanent partial disability rating, typically somewhere in the 35% and upward range. So when you plug a 35% rating in with your comp rate on top of a $100,000 medical bill, if you have an unrepaired knee that's looking at a knee replacement, the case has pretty good settlement value. Even if your knee replacement has already occurred, and typically this is what we would recommend, while your case is open, we let the comp carrier pay for the knee replacement and then explore settlement option after that. The permanency is still going to be outstanding, so that 35 to 50% PPD rating is going to have to be paid. And depending on what your age is, you may need another knee. Knee replacements don't last forever. Typically, they have a 25 to 30-year lifespan, and if one wears out and you don't close out your workers' compensation case, the comp carrier is going to be on the hook to pay for that second knee, occasionally even a third knee down the road. So for that reason, those knee replacement claims have pretty good value as well. So those are my thoughts on it. I would say in increasing order of value, there would be a knee contusion with that little asterisk as to we have to figure out what your doctor thinks that contusion is going to lead to down the road. Number 2 would be a knee sprain. Number 3 would be a torn meniscus. And number 4 would be a total knee replacement case. So if you have any questions about any of that, feel free to give me a call anytime. We're in Farmington. The telephone number is 860-523-8783. You can visit our website. There's a lot of information there on knee injuries. The website address is www.aspbellaw.com. We also have a Facebook group, Ask a Connecticut Workers' Compensation Attorney. You can post a question there, and I'd be happy to get back to you there as well. Okay? Hope you found that helpful. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you'd like, welcome you to subscribe to the channel. We do drop Connecticut workers' compensation topic with some regularity. So if you subscribe to the channel, you'll get the latest and greatest of my thoughts on whatever subject I'm thinking of. Okay? Hope you have a good day, and thanks for listening.